Hey nerds, Cubby here at the DC booth hanging out with Matt Kindt. How's your day going?
Pretty good. I'm busy.
Busy.
Yeah.
You've been doing signings and everything. I've been seeing you running around.
Yeah, and I'm writing comics in between. So
that's
secret.
Even awesome. That's even more awesome. Anyways, what's DC got you here for? I know you're doing some backup stories. I know you got some things coming out. Just give us a little rundown on what that is.
I'm doing a bunch of stuff with Forever Evil. So I'm taking over with s.h.a.d.e and tying into that, and I'm doing Argus limited series that's tying into Forever Evil with Steve Trevor, which is going to be awesome. And then I'm doing backups in Justice League of America, which I'm taking over Justice League of America for Forever Evil 2. And then a bunch of villain issues. So I got to write like Solomon Grundy and Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
Ooh, those are some awesome characters.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. And the backup stories in s.h.a.d.e are dealing with Martian Manhunter, right?
Yeah.
What's it like writing that character? That's one of the just the crazier characters. And what is it like?
Yeah, he's fun. You know, like a lot of writers say, like, oh, Superman's the hardest character to write because nothing can beat him and he's so powerful. I'm like, well, Martian Manhunter's even more hard to write because he's all of that. Plus, he has mind control and he can turn intangible. So so in a way, he's a little more. He's like Superman, but like a little more interesting because of his background. And again, like he is Superman in a way, but without a human parents. So that puts a little twist on him that makes him a little more interesting to tackle. And then the mind control and the telepathy and that kind of thing helps me not only get into his character, but also like get into the other Justice League characters, which has been sort of fun to work with Jeff Johns on, like integrating my backup stories into his story so that they're not just backups, they're like part of the main story as well.
Very nice, very nice. It's one thing I love about DC. You guys all kind of keep it cohesive, try to at least, and so it's really awesome to hear that you're going to be doing that. Now, writing mind management for Dark Horse, like it's a creator-owned book. I mean, obviously it's going to be a different feel at DC, but was it jarring? Was it easy to switch into? Or?
I did Revolver for Vertigo, so I'd already kind of worked with some of the editors there, and then that's kind of how I met everybody anyway too.
Okay.
And with that book, it's kind of like, oh, here's what I can do, and then. Yeah, they just, everybody's been so great to me, and I don't feel like I've changed at all. I feel like, rather than write really cool stories that are mine, I'm writing really cool stories that have these characters with all this great history. And so, like, as a creator, that's what I like, is sort of collaborating with the history of everything that's been done with DC characters before, and like adding to some of that mythology. It's one thing, it's fun to come up with your own character, but it's totally different kind of fun to come up with a character that has been around forever and people know and sort of have like preconceived notions of and ideas of what they are and sort of play on that. Like there's a difference, there's a depth of the characters you can get that you don't get from just creating your own things.
On that note, you said you're going to be doing a ton of one-shots with, Solomon Grundy, Harley Quinn, all those characters.
Yeah.
What was the one character that stood out to you the most that you liked writing?
Solomon Grundy, of all of them,
Awesome.
And then the editor called and he's like, hey, do you want to do Solomon Grundy? And I was like, born on Monday? I'm like, it's kind of, like I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, I don't know, like I always say the thing about like every character's got a good story. I'm like, well, Solomon Grundy? And then literally like in an hour I was like, oh yeah, I had a great idea for a story. And like I think of everything I've written for DC so far, that Solomon Grundy issue is like my favorite thing I've done. And it's super sad and heartbreaking, and then also like, it ends with him like destroying a city at the end, so it's like got everything in it that is great.
That's everything I wanted to come up with. What's one of the characters that you say was a little harder for you to grasp on?
Well, I think Harley Quinn was one of those where so much has been done with her already, and Mad Love is one of my favorite issues of anything ever, of any comic of all time. So I'm like, tackling that character was kind of intimidating because that was done so well already. But then I got into it and I started thinking about her character, and I felt like, the stuff I'd read was we always see sort of the ditzy side of her where she's sort of subservient to the Joker and everything, and I was like, there's more to her there, and the more I thought about it and the more I worked and started churning ideas in my head, I was like, she's smart, there's an intelligence there that I don't think we always get to see. And so when I tackled her, I was like, I want to show that, while she has sort of a ditzy outer surface, there's a smart something in there, like she worked with mental patients and everything, and she was doing this thing that was a good thing, and it takes an intellect to do that kind of work, and I wanted to see how that plays into what she is, you know. So I think that ended up being really interesting too.
What can we expect in Suicide Squad? Can you give us any little hints as to what they're going to be doing with the Faces of Evil, or not Faces of Evil, Forever Evil story arc?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fighting. Oh. There's a lot of violence. No, and I had a good idea. I think a good idea, or a fun idea, was to have Suicide Squad first figure out what's their motivation. You know, once the villains sort of take over, it's like, where's their motivation to fight for good anymore? You know, everybody's running rampant, and they're all scattered to the wind. It's like, well, how do you get them to fight for good? You know, and so I had to figure that out, and so I came up with an interesting twist with Amanda Waller and how she's going to get them sort of roped back in. But then who do they fight? Like, if all the villains are out there, are they fighting villains? So I had an idea to do like a reverse Suicide Squad. So it's the Suicide Squad is villains fighting for good, and so I thought it'd be fun to have heroes fighting for bad, you know, like sort of forced to do that, and then have them fight each other, and so it's sort of like a mirror image of the Suicide Squad.
I can get behind that. So we have a couple questions that we ask everyone we interview at Nerdlocker.
Right.
First off, what's your favorite video game?
My favorite video game? You know what I just bought is the Ouya. Do you guys know?
We actually did a review on it and everything.
Yeah,
we did it at our house for a while.
It's kind of awesome. Like, in the games, they don't look that great, and they're like sort of cheap, sort of like phone games, but they're blown up on the computer. And but I played. There's one called what is it? It's one where you're like, what's the name of it? Dang it! But you're like it's all ninjas. And so, there's like 100 ninjas on the screen, and you have to figure out who you are, and then assassinate the other guy before he assassinates you. And so
awesome.
Honestly, the game's like 99 cents, but the beauty of it is it's like you can get like 4 or 8 people on the couch, and they're all playing together. And like my daughter is just like laughing, and I'm like, this is the best game ever, you know?
Awesome. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? There's no way to tell. Like, honestly, it changes every time you ask me. But some of my favorites are like Amelie, City of Lost Children, Delicatessen. I mean, that director is one of my favorite directors, so I'd say those are like my top 3.
Okay. And lastly, what is your favorite comic book?
My favorite comic book? Man, I don't know. I will say Watchmen I've read more than any other book, so I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one I keep reading.
So the one that stands out the most?
Yeah.
All right, you can go with that. Well, thanks a lot, Matt, and everyone. Forever Evil is coming out. We got awesome guy right here who's going to be doing a lot of those backstories, so check him out. Martian Manhunter's probably going to be an important character in that, so check him out. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. This is Matt Kindt. You're watching Nerdlocker, the place for your inner nerd.